Extraordinary story out of Mpumalanga, where 3 senior Mpumalanga officials are back in the Pretoria Magistrate's Court applying for bail today. Mpumalanga Human Settlements head of department Kebone Masenga, Hawks official Ayanda Plaatje, and the province's acting Director of Public Prosecutions Matric Luphondo are facing corruption charges. It is alleged they tried to bribe a prosecutor to withdraw charges of fraud and of contravening the Immigration Act. eNCA's Michael Appel is following that story and joins us now for an update. And Michael, in a moment we will get to questions around, arguments for and against the granting of bail and questions of whether it's in the interests of justice. But I think it's worth repeating. I keep describing this as extraordinary because it would really be diabolical if these allegations turned out to be true. The people involved, just the people involved, allegedly involved. You have an acting Director of Public Prosecutions who not only is in that position but has also been charged with keeping a watching brief on the State Capture Commission of Inquiry on behalf of the National Director of Public Prosecutions. You have a head of department allegedly involved in this, and just for good measure, a member of the Hawks.
That's right. It's certainly a very honourable list. Matric Luphondo was the chief prosecutor in this very magistrate's court before he took up the position of the acting DPP in Mpumalanga. He's been in the business for 30 years. Ayanda Plaatje, a lieutenant colonel, he's been in the police since 2003. So just under 20 years. And you've got Kebone Masenga. He has been the HOD at Human Settlements for the past 6 years. So let me very quickly, Tulas, just summarize where we are at the moment. Yesterday, the state asked for 7-day postponement after arresting these 3 accused earlier in the week. That request was denied, and bail application was to be heard at 8:30 this morning. It started late, but accused number 1, who is Matric Luphondo, and accused number 3, Kebone Masenga, they are being their charge is being seen as a Schedule 1 offence, as they are not law enforcement officers, and the quantum of the alleged bribe is therefore different to how you would treat somebody who is a law enforcement officer who is accused number 2, Lieutenant Colonel Ayanda Plaatje. His quantum of the alleged bribe is said to be 28,000 rand. So for a member of law enforcement, if the alleged bribe exceeds 10,000 rand, it becomes a Schedule 5 offence. And Tulas, I don't have to tell you that the onus on the state versus onus on the defence to prove whether it is in the interests of justice, whether the applicants for bail be released from remanded custody changes between Schedule 1 and Schedule 5. All 3 of the accused deny the offences against them. It's several charges under the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act, conspiracy to commit corruption. All 3 deny that this happened. The state, on the other hand, says that they have direct evidence. The affidavit from the investigating officer says that an undercover operation will lead to video and audio evidence being led during the trial. The state says it's got a very strong case against the 3 accused. The defence, unsurprisingly, saying, look, this is not about the strength of the state's case at the moment. This is purely about bail, and that all 3 of them are very senior members that have made their lives in South Africa. They have fixed assets here, and it is therefore in the interests of justice that they be released. And the state is saying it could potentially, ballpark, take 5 months to conclude its investigations. Even the magistrate said, do you really want me to keep them behind bars for 5 months?
Wow. And Michael, so what is the state saying in opposing bail to this particular, in as far as these applicants are concerned?
So it is the belief of the state that Matric Luphondo, obviously a very senior member of the NPA, knows the state's witness. Advocate Andrew Mpaga knows him obviously very well. So there is the belief from the state side and the accusation from the state's witness that accused number one has already indirectly threatened the security of the state's witness by a few days before his arrest, following him to a restaurant where he was having lunch. So he believes, the state's main witness believes, that his life is under threat and would continue to be so if these three accused were released on bail. The second witness, Ayanda Plaatje, is somebody within law enforcement who they say could have very easy access to the particulars of a particular person, the state's witness in this case. And Kebone Masenga, the state is saying that he is already an accused in a previous case of fraud and contravention of the Immigrations Act. And so this would effectively be strike two for him. So they're saying that trying to get the case of fraud and the Immigrations Act dropped against him, that's effectively strike two for him. They're saying that he has, in essence, committed a second offence, Schedule 1 offence. So they're saying that it simply is not in the interest of justice that he be released on bail, and if he were, he would likely commit that same offence.
And Michael, just to underscore the jaw-dropping nature of these allegations, Matric Luphondo was, at one point before the appointment of Shamila Batoyi, one of the people who were aspirant NDPP candidates, potentially an NDPP. So he very nearly became the National Director of Public Prosecutions. Well, I don't know how close he came to clinching it, but he certainly was in contention. And lastly, and we do need to recap this, the other extraordinary part of these allegations is that it is alleged that this corruption happened to cover up a fraud. So layers here.
Yeah, definitely. The ugly onion of corruption. You've got fraud happening first, and this is where the allegation is that the HOD of Human Settlements got his hands on fraudulent documents that allowed him to put himself forward as a South African citizen. The state is saying his citizenship remains in dispute and that he's actually a Zimbabwean national who should not have been able to get those documents. So the allegation here is that the HOD approaches the investigating officer on his case, as well as Mr. Matric Luphondo, and they then conspire in common purpose, go to the prosecutor who is assigned this case, Advocate Mpaga, and try to get him to drop the case. Accused number one is accused of giving allegedly 5,000 rand in cash plus a nice 1,550 rand bottle of Glenfiddich 18-year-old whiskey to the state advocate assigned that fraud case. And the second is accused number two, allegedly parting with 28,000 rand to the prosecutor to try and get him to drop that case. It is clear from the investigating officer that it was an undercover operation, a trap of sorts, and soon after that money is said to have parted hands, the three were arrested.
You can't make this stuff up. Thank you for that. eNCA's Michael Appel there. Of course, the presumption of innocence is actually a right that these accused are entitled to, not this bandied about presumption of innocence that people throw around when they find themselves in a spot of bother. These are people who are actually before a court and actually enjoy that right. But the allegations, my goodness, they are extraordinary.